there's nobody in Nigeria that is not useful. Every region is useful. Every region is important. Every region has something they bring to the table. Nobody is useless. Even the minorities, even the people that everybody calls parasites. By the way, the people who call some people parasites, they are actually the parasites in Nigeria. It's the region that requires heavy allocation on a monthly basis. And what they get is not commercial. In fact, it is way more than what they contribute. And this is not new. We've been having that since the 1940s. The East has always contributed the least. Would you believe that the East is contributing less today than Northeast, where you have Sambisa Forest and Boko Haram? We've got to see, let's be humble. Everybody is important, but nobody is indispensable, including my own ethnic group. And I know we have a lot going for us. But even if something's going to affect Nigeria if we leave, I'll be like, well, they will take care of themselves. Maybe you'll find a way. But this whole nonsense of if we leave, if we pull out our if they pull out the investment, what he said was that Uyo as a city will be sick. Now, I'm not from Uyo. I served in Uyo. I think it's a fantastic town. I don't think this one is thinking straight for saying that about this place. But guess what? Maybe it's true for their region. But to now use that as a microcosm for Nigeria is just insane. Not in the West. If you pull out of Yoruba land, wallahi, before you get to the gate where you're going, people will take your place. Because whatever you are doing right now, let me even tell you something. I'm going to find a way to say it so it doesn't sound off. But you know that there was a time when certain companies in Yoruba land were doing very well. I think it's even good to even talk about it. In electronics, in textile, and stuff. Let me ask you, if you grew up in the 70s, in the 80s, the 90s, do you remember, I don't know about you, but do you remember that in Southwest, second-hand clothing was not very, very popular? Do you remember that second-hand clothing? I mean, growing up, I never wore. I mean, I noticed certain people wearing it. Our tenants had this thing, and you always look nice. Of course, Omati Shedada, so it looks good. But I always wondered where they got it from. We never got involved in second-hand clothing in Yoruba land. And by the way, the popularization of second-hand clothing actually started sincerely, guys, I'm not throwing shots, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but the reason for the second-hand clothing in Nigeria was actually the folks from the Southeast, and it started in the 1960s. And just in case you have not heard about it, I'm not going to go deep into it, but let me just quickly say this. In 1963, an edict was passed by the Eastern Parliament. And I have a document here, by the way, but I'm not going to start reading it. In that document, they said that people should stop coming to markets in the capital naked. That was in 1963. In order to combat that, they had to look at importing second-hand clothing. That's one. Number two, we had Bata. We had Adebo Electronics. What happened to them? In case you have not heard about it, let me just quickly say it briefly. It's not today's topic, but it's important to mention it. You see, those ones who go abroad, they will import what an Englishman would use and bring it to Nigeria. Of course, it will be expensive, right? It will be expensive. And so what that would do, let me tell you something. Guys, please listen to me attentively. If a person discovers that what we are importing is too expensive, what is usually produced in those people is innovation. In other words, they will look for a way to create an alternative. And that's why today in Nigeria, the number one company that manufactures agricultural implements and all these vehicles that they use, there is a Yoruba man. The reason is not because of his ethnicity, is because what they are bringing in, they have not been able to bring in an inferior quality of that particular thing. What happened really in Nigeria was that a particular time came, certain people decided to go abroad. If you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, you will start seeing Philip having B. Who remembers? Philip, you start seeing B there. They'll be putting B in Philip. Or you see, let's say your name is, let's say it's Samsung. You discover that your own Samsung has O. What's happening now is that folks will buy everything, and because people, I mean, people like to, I mean, if it's cheap, it's cheap. They will just prefer to buy, even though it's not going to last. They will buy that one. So people start buying inferior stuff, affecting two groups. Number one, the ones who will bring the good one, go to their quality. Nobody's buying from them again. The ones who will be challenged to create an alternative locally, they also don't have a reason to do anything. So what do we do? Everybody just import. You think importation is how countries grow, especially when you're importing inferior materials? Your iron, you use your iron. People start flooding Nigeria with inferior products. Something is happening right now, by the way. I hope the federal government has noticed it. There's this import duty they've put on cars. So you know what some people are doing? They will go abroad, cut cars in pieces, import them as scrap, and then rebuild them in Nigeria. You think that is innovation? That is a death trap. There's no quality control. We don't even know if you are doing it properly. Just kì í ṣe pé bóyá mọ́tò l'accident tó wọ́n gé sí méjì láti òró, wọ́n gé láti òró sílẹ̀, wọ́n wá gé apá síbì kan, gẹ́sẹ̀ síbì kan, gé orí síbì kan, gé ọrùn síbì kan, wọ́n wá kó wá Nàìjíríà, wọ́n wá tún tò. Títò ẹ̀ wọ́n ṣe títò ẹnjìníà o, wọ́n á kàn jó pọ̀ mọ́ra wọn ṣá, ó ṣàmà wá dúró dáadáa, ó máa gún régé, wọ́n á kùn, á bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí tà níta tuntun or níta tòkunbọ̀. And people were saying that this thing you are doing is dangerous for economy. Everybody say, oh, you are a tribalist, oh, you are a bigot. If you, as a people, you don't thrive in organized sectors, it means that you are not adding anything really. Do you know, let me say this, there are sectors where certain people thrived until structure was introduced. We know these things. We don't talk about it because live and let live. But once I begin to hear things like, if we leave, something will happen, if we leave, city will be sick, your own city will be sick, will be fine. Because sincerely, in other words, all you're saying, yes, you're able to afford it, and it's true, they're actually meeting a need. There's no question about it. If a person cannot afford, have you ever gone to the market and you hear something like, there's new, but there's tokumbo, and as the new one is inferior? How many of you have gone to the mechanic and your mechanic has told you that before? They have told me that several times. If they have not told you that, maybe we're not living in the same country. Has it happened to you before? Where you go to the mechanic, you want to fix something. Where to tunwa tokumbo wa? Tutun yen gbarok buduni. In other words, the new, anywhere you go in the world, is the new not supposed to be better than the used? They tell you the new is cheaper, but it's inferior. And if you really want the good one, you have to buy the fairly used. You know, when I first started hearing this thing, I was a lot younger. I'll go with my dad, maybe he's fixing something in the car, or the mechanic comes and tells him in the house and say, Tutunwa Tokumbo. I used to wonder, like, Kini wo gora da, but Tutun Shema wa inferior si Tokumbo. Oh, Belgium, the leash, but the Bala Tutun yen. Koni serve you, Katomo sin you. They'll say, Tutun, the budget, but if you buy Tokumbo, it's going to last longer. Why do you think that is? It's because certain people in their own kind of quick buck, let me just make money. You will bring in inferior stuff. Yes, it's meeting a need. And that one I cannot take away from you. People can't afford the new stuff. So, but you know the thing, aspirational things now become commonplace. Right? Aspirational goods are now, like water. You can just buy anything. You feel like you're wearing fake Gucci makes you feel rich, which of course is dumb. Personally, right? Personally, I don't even think people should be all about wearing brands. I mean, I don't know why people are crazy about it. But if you really want to wear a brand and you can't afford the real Gucci, then they'll sell you the fake one. Now, here is the point. Why? Let me tell you something. I told you I said in our choir bomb. So we used to go to Aba. The first time I went to Area Market, I saw some crazy guys. I mean, they were good. Area has this rows of tailors. That section, Ashodon there's a part where all they're doing is boxers, under part shirts, underside trousers. Fantastic stuff until you find the label on it. So I used to wonder at that time, why can't they just start a brand? You see Burberry being made in Aba. Why can't they just start a brand? Because once you start a brand, there's structure, and folks like that cannot thrive where there's structure. In other words, you're doing, I mean, I'm glad you're doing well, but it's happening because you are working in a sector where has not been regularized. It happened in the film industry. It literally happened in the movie industry. It is happening right now. So here's the issue. If you regularize or you structure a thing, nobody thrives anymore there, which is the crazy part. If you're so good, you should be able to work in structured environment. And right now we are seeing it in the movie industry. It's becoming very, very clear. So me going to Ariara, this was years ago. Imagine between then and now, we've actually had people who said, you know what, we can do something like that and put our own and stuff there. It would be my joy to see brands from Aba. But no, you'll be putting Burberry on it. Meanwhile, something similar happened in Kano. Not the same, but a bit similar. So with Kano, Prada, Gucci, all those guys will travel to Kano, buy leather, take it out, and then call it, they say, Italian leather. So there was a court case a while back, making it clear that just about all the leather they're talking about is actually Nigerian. But what they do right now, they don't write Italian leather. If you notice, you won't see Italian leather on the new products now. You see it, genuine leather, but they'll still carry Prada. So a company called Winston, they started, right, and they started making bags with their own brand. They have a shop in Lekki. They have bags and belts and shoes and all kinds of things, right? Now that is you changing from selling raw material into actually making finished products with your name on it. But if you are coming from a place where you thrive in disorganization, in chaos, that's the word. If you thrive in chaos, don't be proud to the point where you tell people that without me you are nothing. Number one, without that chaos you are nothing. In other words, all I need to get you straightened out is to fix the chaos. Once I remove the chaos, you are done. So the threat is not to me, it's to you. You are here, you are doing well, and I want you to do well, but you're actually doing this thing based on the magnanimity of the government. The day the government decides to structure this thing, you are out. And you see, if you have this I better pass my neighbor mentality, let me just do this, if I just do this and just go also. I'll round up by saying this. While I respect, I think he has a right to his opinion, Okon, what he was saying, I'll say this. A people who thrive in chaos have not earned the right to threaten other people especially when they live in the land of those other people. Those who thrive in chaos have not earned the right to threaten their host communities. Because all the host communities need to do is to create structure. Once there is structure and you remove the dysfunction, the person who thinks is all that just discovers that